Harry's Wife. Part 101.45. They're fuming. Not only fuming, but exploding. Yes. According to the Daily Express and an article by Tom Watling, Prince Harry and Harry's wife will go back to Monty Shit Show fuming over UK treatment. Prospects of reconciliation between the Sussexes and the rest of the royal family following the Queen's death appear short-lived, as there was little interaction during the funeral on Monday. Tom Bower, royal expert and author of Revenge, Harry's Wife, Harry and the War Between the Windsors, has said the Sussexes will go back to California fuming after the royal family showed very little sympathy towards them following the death of Queen Elizabeth II. Mr. Bower told GB News he believed Harry and Harry's wife looked quite angry during the funeral of the late monarch because they were not being afforded the respect they think they deserve. Indeed. Harry's wife, of course, believes that she's the most important person on the planet, and her narcissism erases all of her bad behaviour and misconduct, treats it like it never ever happened before, and therefore is at a loss as to why she's not being talked to. She's at a loss as to why she's not being afforded the respect that she believes is rightfully hers. Oh, Ginger Bollocks, of course, with his narcissistic traits heightened as a consequence of the poison poured in his ears by his wife, behaves in a similar fashion, his sense of entitlement heightened by her saying, "You know what, Harry, they're at it again, treating us like pariahs when we've done nothing wrong." And, of course, Dimwit, thick as mince, isn't able to process that, and it's clouded by his own emotional thinking. The article by the Express continues. Tensions between the Sussexes and the Cambridges, the Waleses now, were rumoured to have improved during the past fortnight, with both couples appearing together the weekend after the Queen's death. But Mr. Bower said notions of reconciliation were nonsense, because Harry's wife and Harry have said such terrible things in the past. Mr. Bower said, "I thought the whole way the rest of the royal family treated Harry's wife and Harry today showed that they had very little sympathy towards them. Indeed, and it's not hard to see why. And in return, Harry's wife and Harry looked quite angry that they were not being treated with the respect they think they deserve. They are going to go back to Monty Shit Show, fuming, and the autobiography of Prince Harry will soon be dug out and released. I would have loved to have known what Sophie Wessex said to Harry's wife as they drove in the limousine between Westminster Hall and the church. Sophie Wessex is a plain-speaking woman. Did she tell Harry's wife exactly what they all thought of her? The idea that the body language between William and Harry showed reconciliation is, in my view, nonsense, something that I agree with. How on earth can there be reconciliation when Harry and Harry's wife have said such terrible things about William and his wife? Indeed, Mr. Bower holds the same view as I do. See Part 101.40. There is just no grounds for sympathy unless the two of them, the Sussexes, apologise. Good luck with that. Following the death of the Queen, Prince Harry and wife, Harry's wife, alongside Prince William and Kate, appeared outside Windsor Castle to greet well-wishers and see people's tributes to their grandmother, bringing back images of the Fab Four, as they were called prior to the Sussexes' acrimonious split from the Royals in 2020. The two couples exchanged words and appeared to be getting along, And unlike at Prince Philip's funeral in 2021, where the two brothers had to be separated during the procession by their cousin Peter Phillips, the pair stood together in the procession to the Queen's coffin to Westminster Hall several days later. For many, it looked as if the death of their grandmother had helped bring the brothers at least partially back together. The only thing that brought them back together was the funeral, not in the sense of actually reconciling, but just being physically present to one another. The article continues, but the funeral and burial of the late monarch on Monday painted a different picture. While Harry and William did again stand next to each other for the processions, there was no eye contact and little interaction between them. Sitting on separate sides of the aisle during the ceremony at Westminster Abbey, the sight was reminiscent of the St. Paul's Cathedral Thanksgiving service, also known as the Service of Booze, during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee several months previous, where the pair did not communicate at all. It has also been reported that the Sussexes' invitation to a reception attended by world leaders on the Sunday evening was rescinded, in signs that relations remain frosty. As we know, there was no invitation issued to begin with. They were NFI'd, not fucking invited. Indeed, they will, as Mr. Barr indicates, be flying back fuming, but there'll also be explosions, because, quite simply, this has been a disaster for Harry's wife. For the reasons that I've explained in part 101.43 as to how the funeral and associated events have affected her, not only has she been subjected to repeated threats to control, but the levels of criticism have increased, and she has not been welcomed even though she thought that she should be, and that will leave her not reflecting on, could I have caused this in any way? Might I have done something to result in people being so cold and off with me? Might I examine my behaviours? Or even, I don't blame them for treating me that way, although I've got my own views. They clearly have been offended by what I've said, and they're allowed to be offended by what I've said. I get it, and I just have to deal with the aftermath of it, not for Harry's wife, because any such admission like that would not only exhibit emotional empathy, but also show accountability, and thus would be a threat to control. So her narcissism can't let that penetrate that membrane, if you will, to threaten that sense of control. And therefore, they will fly back whenever they are, fuming at their supposed unfair treatment. It will just underline her victimhood. It will reinforce her point, I was right to leave. She is incapable of seeing that she's at fault. She's incapable of seeing that it's her behaviour that has caused all of this in the first place. And now it will gird her loins to continue to try and assert control indirectly over the royal family, the United Kingdom and its populace, by no doubt some further smearing that will come. But let's dive below the line to see what the Daily Expressers have to say. This is always indicative of the way that minds are working, and hugely entertaining. Fig writes, why would Sophie say anything to a known liar? Indeed, and that underpins the fact of the frozen nature that Sophie provided, as I explained in my earlier video. Kitty Queen writes, respect, don't make me laugh. Nearly 250,000 people filed past Her Majesty lying in Westminster Hall. 35,000 people paid their respects when she was at rest in St. Giles, and the roads were lined in every village and town, all the way from Balmoral to Edinburgh. Approximately 2 million people were on the streets of London on the day of the funeral. 2,000 people were in the Abbey, the greatest gathering of the world's royalty and politicians. Almost 1/4 of the entire population of the planet watched her state funeral. This was all out of respect for Her Majesty, the Queen, a woman most of these people never met, but who embodied decency and service all of her life, who less than 24 hours before her death met with the new PM, and that pair couldn't even be bothered to go to Balmoral when she asked them. The King, the Princess Royal, the Waleses, the Wessexes, in the absolute depth of their very obvious grief, went out to meet the public and continue their royal duties. Even Prince George and Princess Charlotte attended the funeral. So, Harry and Harry's wife, answer us all this. What respect do you think you deserve and didn't get? Why do you think you are so important, so entitled to demand anything, let alone respect from anyone? Furthermore, what respect do you think you should show the royal family, and why didn't they get it? So, Sussexes, I think you have outstayed your welcome, and have most definitely had way more attention than you ever deserved. You need to return to your Magic Kingdom and Monty shit show, and busy yourselves with your world-changing podcasts, circus skills and travel agency, to name but a few, and shove your demand for respect where the sun don't shine. Respect has to be earned, and you pair have no idea of the meaning of the word. Well, Kitty Queen, tell us what you really think. Jan 57. They didn't get any sympathy or respect because it was the Queen's funeral. They don't deserve any. No one wants them here. They are arrogant beyond belief. Fanny Ann. If I have one wish for these two gold diggers, it is for them to go back to the United States, release their books and say what they want. I think it will say more about them than the royal family. The royal family to disown them, strip them of their titles, and for the UK press never to write about them again. Danielle 22. Why does everybody say they have to apologise for reconciliation? An apology will not repair the damage the two have done. And worse, there is no cure for evil narcissists. This means the two freeloaders will never change. They want to pursue their own goals and just exploit the royal family, while at the same time trashing them. SCD. Harry was given special permission to wear his uniform, so he was not treated ill in that regard. His father disregarded the wishes of the Queen, who certainly would have left specific instructions on that topic, and the seating arrangements. The Queen's insignia had long been removed from his epaulets because he was no longer in the service of the Queen. He was included on all of the morning events. He was not included in the reception for heads of state because he's not a working royal. He was seated directly behind his father, the King, in the largest of the ceremonies of the day and the funeral, and later was in the front row, seated closer to the King than Prince William and his family. If they are angry, then they wanted special treatment, and have a highly inflated view of their position. Coxalla. They seem to think they should be treated like a king and queen wherever they appear. Have they no sense of how much they hurt the royal family and the country with their rants? If Harry and Harry's wife loved the Queen so much, why did they refuse her invitation to Balmoral when she was obviously ill? He should be feeling more remorse than anything else. Oosburn. They are not working royals. Why should they be invited to a working reception? Nothing but gold diggers. Poppy 7-4, Tom Bauer's book Revenge is a great read, very well researched and a real eye-opener on the real Harry's wife. Cassie the Cat. Respect has to be earned, not demanded. Remember, these two had no plans to see the Queen on their original visit plans. That's how much they thought of her. This demonstrates again the strength of feeling that people have, and all of this is challengeful if Harry's wife were to read these comments. But they're all formulated on what? Hatred? No. Racism? No. Her behaviour? Absolutely. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.